Rikimaru is a 17-year-old who, at a younger age, experienced a major trauma that changed his life. One night, he woke up with a high fever and thirst. His mother, a nurse, had taken a night shift. He tried to call his father but got no response. When he went downstairs, he saw him with another woman. In the present day, he lives only with his mother. When leaving for school, he always delivers a snack that his mother prepares for his neighbor and girlfriend, Kagami, since her father is very bad at cooking. Kagami lives with her father and her twin brother, Kyou, who for reasons still unknown, are in a fight. Even so, she still delivers the snack to Kyou, who has stopped going to school and only stays at home lately. Rikimaru's friends envy him for having a girlfriend. When they asked if he had done anything with Kagami, he becomes extremely nervous and says no. During a class, when a girl approached him, he quickly dodged to avoid touching her. Rikimaru reveals that, since that day, he has been unable to touch a woman, not even his girlfriend. After leaving school with Kagami, they go to Rikimaru's house. They were alone for a while until Kyou appeared on the balcony, questioning Rikimaru about when they would play again. It seemed he was teasing his sister, who kindly asked him to get off her boyfriend. But Kyou completely ignored her and soon left via the balcony, despite being on the 5th floor and Rikimaru's warnings to be careful. Kagami mentions she also needs to leave, trying to hide her discontent with her brother. Rikimaru notices and thinks about comforting her with a hug, but his trauma prevents him. Kagami went to take a shower, and Kyou ended up using his sister's clothes to go to Rikimaru's house in the middle of the night. The next day, Rikimaru wakes up somewhat confused, believing that the previous night had been just a dream with Kagami, especially because he thought she wouldn't be capable of doing that. He was waiting for her so they could go to school together, and is surprised to see that Kyou had decided to go. When questioned about the reason for his return, he simply says he felt like going. Seeing Kyou, Rikimaru becomes thoughtful, considering the possibility that the brother had dressed exactly like his sister the previous night, making that dream seem like it had actually happened. While walking to school together, the other two stared at Kyou, who ended up feeling uncomfortable, and asked them to stop staring at him. Kyou said he just felt like coming back and that was it. Kagami was happy for her brother, unlike Rikimaru, who still hadn't understood, and more importantly, if that dream from the previous night had really happened. While in the classroom, Rikimaru reflected on what would happen if his friends found out his secret. He was afraid of becoming the butt of jokes. When near Kagami, he still desired her, but every time he felt something, he remembered his father. After class, Rikimaru asked if she would like to come to his house, but Kagami said she had to do homework first. As soon as she finished, she would go to his house because she had a question to ask. Upon arriving home, Rikimaru was warmly greeted by Kyou, who questioned him about how his relationship with his sister was going, as they had been together for almost 6 months. Kyou asked if they had done anything more, and he got so close to Rikimaru that he ended up remembering Kagami's face. Rikimaru's reaction was just to push him away. Rikimaru ends up revealing his trauma to Kyou, not in much detail, as he was not yet ready to talk to anyone, even though they were childhood friends. Kyou shook Rikimaru's hand to show him that, even though he had the same face as his sister, it didn't affect Rikimaru, as he could touch him normally. Kagami appeared and became extremely nervous to see her brother touching her boyfriend and told Kyou to take his hands off him. She threw the cell phone in the direction of the handshaking, which made them separate. Kagami seemed like a different person, besides shouting, asking why Kyou was constantly clinging to Rikimaru, even though he was a boy. After that, she went home, and when Rikimaru was about to touch her hand, Kyou pushed her away. We are transported to old memories when they were younger. Kagami asked her brother to take chocolates to Rikimaru, probably on Valentine's Day, and she was very embarrassed. Later, Kagami asked what Rikimaru had replied to her brother, and Kyou joked, saying that he had said he would marry him instead of her because boys are cooler. Kagami felt inferior to her brother. He was much more popular than she was, had many friends, and was much closer to Rikimaru. On another fateful day, Kagami went to Rikimaru's house and noticed her brother was also there. She was extremely embarrassed to enter his room, but after seeing a package full of cookies, which was probably for her as a thank you for the chocolates, she felt obliged to thank him personally. When she entered the room, she saw her brother kissing Rikimaru. Back in the present, Kagami didn't go to school, and Kyou said she hadn't even left her room. During class, Rikimaru received a note with the contact information of the prettiest girl in the other class, asking to be friends with him. He asked them to return it because he already had a girlfriend. His friends asked why he had suddenly chosen Kagami. Rikimaru had all the qualities to be with any girl in their view, but of all the proposals he received, he had never agreed to any. Even Rikimaru didn't really know how to answer. It was Kagami who had asked him out. Initially, he didn't want to, because of his trauma. But since she was his childhood friend, maybe it would be different, so he agreed. When he got home, Kyou was in his room, having entered without permission as usual, but he brought good news for Rikimaru. Kagami had left her room, and was in the living room. Rikimaru knew he had to apologize to his girlfriend, so he went, despite his twin brother's warning, saying he had never seen that hysterical side of his sister, and jokingly told him to be careful not to get stabbed. As soon as he entered, Rikimaru was greeted with a cheerful smile from Kagami, who didn't seem angry. First, he apologized for the previous day and made it clear that nothing was happening between him and Kyou. Kagami said she understood, but the main reason that had upset her so much was seeing someone else touching her boyfriend. Probably because Rikimaru hadn't been able to touch her since they started dating. Kagami burst into tears, and that scene finally gave Rikimaru the courage to reveal his trauma to her. Rikimaru relieves the day he saw that strange woman with his father. She made a point of saying she was his father's mistress, and that she would soon be his new mother. He could still remember her voice and her look clearly. Kagami felt guilty for making her boyfriend reveal something so intimate and painful. She knew it caused him deep suffering. However, the two end up reconciling, and Rikimaru decides he needs to change his behavior. To prove he really likes her, he forces himself to offer a handshake, a task that is almost impossible for him. While timidly touching her boyfriend's hand, Kagami noticed that his hand was getting cold. When she looked directly into his eyes, she saw that he was feeling sick and about to vomit. Rikimaru ran to the bathroom, and Kyou appeared behind him, asking what had happened. He responded that he couldn't do it because no matter how hard he tried, the image of the woman still haunted. Kyou, dressed as his sister, proposed pretending to be Kagami to help Rikimaru overcome his fear. Half a month had passed, and Rikimaru still hadn't seen either of the twins. At school, he avoided running into Kagami, until one day he received a message from her asking him to come to her house to talk. When he arrived, she was waiting with several cookies that had a special meaning. She explained that in elementary school, she received a bag full of cookies on White Day. Although she liked cookies, she would have preferred to receive sweets, as cookies mean, let's be friends, and sweets mean, I like you. In a sharp manner, she asked if they could go back to being just friends from now on, despite Rikimaru's pleas to get back together. The couple ended their relationship, and Kyou, who lived in the same house, heard everything, making Rikimaru quite uncomfortable. He confronted his twin brother, asking if he had done all that just to mock him. Rikimaru lamented what had happened and confessed his desire to change, asking Kyou for help. Kyou decided with great satisfaction and a smile to take control of the situation from then onward. Everything returned to how it was before Kagami and Rikimaru started dating, with the two going back to being just friends. On a hot day, while walking to school, Kagami mentioned that she had lost her favorite hairpin a few days ago. Rikimaru suspected who had probably taken it, and discreetly went to Kyou to ask him to return the hairpin. Kyou played dumb and ended up suggesting that they buy a new one together over the weekend. Rikimaru agreed, thinking that giving her a present might make her happy. While they were discussing the details, Kagami, with a curious expression, asked what the two were talking about. On Saturday, Rikimaru was waiting for Kyou as planned, but was surprised to see him dressed as a girl. When questioned about his attire, Kyou explained that it was all to help Rikimaru practice touching Kagami. The two spent a good amount of time together, enough for Rikimaru to start feeling his heart race in Kyou's presence. They went to buy the hairpin they had agreed on, and at the store, the saleswoman asked if the present was for Kyou, since they looked like a couple. Rikimaru even placed the hairpin on Kyou's hair to see how it would look on Kagami. Kyou felt embarrassed but also happy, and soon said goodbye to Rikimaru. Then Kagami appeared unexpectedly, and Rikimaru tried to gather the courage to give her the present, even though he knew it wouldn't be enough to make everything go back to normal between them. Kyou ran to a bathroom, crying and frustrated, thinking that if he were of the opposite sex, maybe he would have a chance and receive a hairpin from his friend. Rikimaru's story seems very real, even though it is just fiction. Many accounts on the internet describe similar experiences. In Rikimaru's case, he developed an irrational fear of women known as gynophobia. It is difficult for a child to understand what really happened, and this created intense fear and repulsion. It is a great story of drama with a very unusual romance. Seriously, this was new to me. So that's it, folks. Thanks for watching! Don't forget to comment on what you thought of the video, as it really helps the channel. If you want to support the channel with a donation, I am immensely grateful. Remember that by making a donation, you can choose the theme of the next video. Thank you.